how much are you thinking about the global audience versus just your domestic audience? And has that kind of conversation in your head changed over the years?
I mean, you make a film with your belief, your conviction, and you make it for the country that you're from. And I believe, like, when people have said things, oh, you make films for non-resident Indians, and I'm like, why are you sectionalizing them when they're not? They live, it's just geography. They're still very Asian and Indian at heart. And no matter where you're from, India, you're from Pakistan, you're from Bangladesh, you're from anywhere in the world, emotions travel. They can travel continents, they can travel everywhere. So I never think of an audience because that would be being manipulative. You can be a strategist when you're a filmmaker, but being a manipulative filmmaker is always going to get caught.
Where are you right now as a filmmaker? What are you working on? What is kind of your 2024 outlook?
I directed a film after 7 years. That was called, the trailer that just showed, Rocky Rani ki Prem Kahaani.
It's in July. Like, when will that come to international?
That's already released everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it's released. I think I'm sure people have seen it.
I saw it right now.
They've seen it. Many times, lovely. No wonder I saw that number that high. I was like, okay, then I'll just thank you.
That movie was the best thing of the day.
Yeah. Interviewer has not done her homework.
It was the best thing for me for that day.
Oh wow, thank you. So much love. That is so. I'm so grateful and truly blessed. Thank you. So basically, that was my film that I directed. It released in July, and it came after 7 years. The film prior to that was called Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, and I promised myself that I would not take this long. Being a studio head, you have so many responsibilities. So I really want to direct more often. So I said this decade, I turned 51 in May, and I'm like, in this decade, I want to make at least 5 feature films that I direct.
That's one every 2 years. And how realistic is that?
Yeah, so I mean, I would like to, because eventually my primary passion is filmmaking, is being a director. Everything else has been like the icing on the big cake.
The TV presenting,
the talk show host.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah. Well, it's all great, and it's fun, and it's exciting. But when I sleep at night, I think of stories. Mm-hmm. I don't think of conversations I've had on a talk show. And I want to be remembered as a filmmaker, because sometimes it's very strange where I go in the world, people like, they call me coffee wherever I go, and I'm like, I'm not a beverage. I'm a filmmaker. Or many times they've asked me, like, when's the next season? I'm like, I'd love for you to ask me when my next film is. Imagine, like, being remembered for a talk show and not. But I mean, I know that won't happen. That won't happen. I'll make sure that doesn't happen.
What about acting, though? Like, when do you consider, I'm going to do a project versus, I mean, you don't often, so...
No, actually, when I did a feature film called Bombay Velvet, it was a resounding disaster. It was such a big mess. I hadn't produced or directed it. It was a great filmmaker, Anurag Kashyap made it. We all make mistakes. And like, he cast me, and perhaps that was one of them. And after that, it was very sad and shattering, because I got absolutely no acting offer after that. Even in my own studio, no one has cast me. So I think I should read the sign and maybe realize that maybe this is not my vocation that I should, or a vertical I should opt for. Maybe. So I haven't been able to do anything relevant post Bombay Velvet. If it does happen, and I can maybe, prove that I'm not half as bad.
Opportunities to work in Hollywood.
Yeah. So when I directed My Name Is Khan, in 2010 it released, and it was when Fox, 20th Century Fox came to India. It was their first, massive
local language.
It was it was their first release. We took it, it worked so fantastically in the Middle East, everywhere. It opened up markets. It was a phenomenal success. I was just, so, taken in by the fact that one must also think globally. It took me a year or two to realize, and a couple of like trips to Los Angeles, that made me realize that it's all great and it's wonderful, and we do a lot of meetings. There are lots of meetings. There's agency representation, there's meetings, but it took me a year to feel that my heart is in my country. My cinema comes from my heart, and I don't want to leave that. And I don't want to make films in any other language but the language that raised me. And if that can walk the red carpets of the world and win laurels everywhere else, then that would be so amazing. But I don't want to kind of leave my country, my base, the foundation that the country gave me to have those stories to tell, because there's a glitz, in another part of the world.
Right.
We'll create that glitz ourselves, and we have been,
Exactly. And
I mean,
I would imagine it's
who
just as
doesn't?
fulfilling.
Everybody has a dream. I'm holding this award today.
Yeah.
That means it's an achievement, right?
There you go.
I didn't need to make an English language film to do that. And I'm so honored to receive this. And it would be wonderful to walk the red carpet of the Academy Awards and hold that beautiful statue. But I would like it to be a Hindi language film that I direct, if it ever has to happen.
Now, that said, is there anyone in Hollywood who maybe speaks the language who you would be dying to work with?
I'm obsessed with only one artist in the world. If you ask me to leave everything and go, and if I could have a meal with her, not just shake her hand, because I know she won't remember me after that, is Meryl Streep. I just want to have a meal with her. It's the only item on my bucket list. Because everything else is, I think, ticked. But like meeting Meryl Streep and having a meal with her in just 1 hour with Meryl Streep, I think I can die in good heaven right after that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can make that happen once this is aired. So.
Well, I'm saying it everywhere. I've been manifesting it. I'm manifesting it, and there have been opportunities where I could shake her hand at it, where she's been in my vicinity, and I could have been introduced to her, but that would have been just a hello and a handshake. I don't want that. I want that 1 hour, where I just want to
like human to human.
Yes, just a conversation. I would like give anything to achieve that. Fly anywhere for that.
Coffee with Karan.
No, she won't know who I am.
You never know. What would you though most like to learn in that hour? Like just her process, her what makes her.
I think with her she's so authentic that you don't need to ask questions. Just the conversation will flow, and I think I'll learn. I don't think there's a better actor in this world. She's perfection, and she. With every film you watch of hers, you just know that her ability to be relevant in any decade that she has been in is just so admirable. Because the thing with relevance is that when you have all the tools to be a good artist, it's wonderful, but there are times that evolve, and you have to evolve with them. And I think there are few artists that understand that more than others, and I think she's one of them. When she acts in 2023, she knows that she has to act in a different way than she did in French Lieutenant's Woman or Sophie's Choice. You know that her choices are different today.
Yeah. In terms of everything you do, what is the most creatively fulfilling? I know you say you go to bed and you're thinking, storytelling, but where do you feel that greatest creative fulfillment?
I think being on set, directing a film, being in command of a narrative that was born within you, and seeing the execution of that narrative, there is no bigger high for me as an artist.
Where have you been most surprised to find that you had a huge fan base?
I think Indian cinema travels everywhere. So I remember once I was in Paris, for a fashion show, and I was like, and I know that there was a K-pop star on the red carpet, and I went in because I was invited to to see a fashion show. It was a Gucci fashion show, and went in and came out, and there was loud screaming happening, and I was waiting for my car, and I kept thinking it was also for the K-pop sensation, and then they started saying my name, and like,
who was
could
it?
be? I don't know. I don't remember. He was from X, so I don't know much about K-pop music.
Lei Zhang, maybe? Because he's the fashion one.
Yeah, he may have been. But
he's from EXO.
So I didn't know, and I didn't want to intrude on his privacy. So I was standing very quietly in the corner waiting for my car. And there was a huge bunch of people screaming loudly, and I was like, at one point I think I heard my name, and then I just looked up and I saw some people make eye contact, and there were lots of them. Then I waved, and then there was this big wave that happened, and I felt so great, like it was so amazing. Out many miles away from home, in a country that you didn't know, and I knew that one of my films was released in French. One of my films, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, was released in French as La Famille Indienne, and maybe people watched it. I don't know, but like they seemed to know me. I don't know how, and I was like, I got into my car and I was like, I remember this moment.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about the Indian film industry?
Is that we're all about song and dance. We're so much more than that. We have stories across languages that are stories to tell that can actually walk alongside so much of the great content that comes out of the world. It's just that myth, that misconception has actually pushed us a few years behind, many years behind, because we're not that. Yes, we make songs and dance, we're very proud of them. We love them. I've done them. This one is full of them. But there are also stories made in so many languages: Malayalam, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Marathi, Punjabi, from Orissa, from Assam, from so many parts of India. There are such beautiful stories and should be viewed by a world audience. And thank God for streaming services that are now bringing the world together. And that is a misconception, and that is something we combat on a daily basis, because I feel the world needs to wake up to Indian stories and Indian storytelling, because there's lots of hidden gems that need to be out there.
Karan, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
My father told me, people need people. He said, don't think that you can operate in isolation. Everyone needs people. So for people to need people, you have to be there for people. If they're going to be, if you need them, you need them at some point. You have to be there for them too. It's very simple, 3 words. People need people, and that's all he kept saying to me, always. And he also said that it doesn't matter if a film is a success or a failure, but if the crew on that film is unhappy with the way they were treated, then for me that film is already a big failure, no matter what it does at the box office.
I think that would apply to many films I've heard about. Okay, maybe my final question before we open it up. What kind of advice, or what specific advice would you give to up-and-coming filmmakers right now who, 25 years after you are about to make their first?
Please don't follow the noise. Create your own sound. That's all. Because sometimes the success of other films creates a certain noise, right? And you feel you want to be part of that amplified noise. But you have an individuality of your own sound. Your sound of storytelling, your sound of cinema. Listen to that sound. Don't be part of the noise.
Yeah. And that, I think, is also a lesson with regards to AI, which AI will never really be able to simulate that.
Nothing can take away from the purity of what is original. Nothing. A digital print will always be not as authentic as what the original is. Everything original is always going to be forever. Nothing that is emulated, nothing that is imbibed, or nothing that is like created, recreated. None of that is ever going to be a threat. I believe that, you know, we as artists can never be threatened by what is not original. We shouldn't be, we have no need to be.
Okay. I know we have a lot of excited people